Let's start our chat today with a little story. We've got 5 monkeys, a ladder, and a bunch of bananas. Naturally, one of those monkeys is going to try to climb that ladder and get those bananas, right? But imagine that there was a system in place to which anytime that a monkey actually tried to do that, the rest of the monkeys would get rained on. And nobody likes to be rained on. And so the monkeys end up associating the ladder and trying to get those bananas with rain. And they decide to beat up any monkey who even tries to get those bananas. Now, let's say you were to swap out one of these monkeys, one of these original monkeys, and you instead insert a new monkey straight from the jungle. That new monkey is going to enter this room and it's going to see those bananas. And it's obviously going to try to get those bananas, right? But imagine that all of the other monkeys stop them. They don't let them. They, in fact, beat that monkey up. They reinforce that existing system with that new monkey. That new monkey learns, all right, we do not go get bananas here. Okay, got it. It's a little weird to me, but all right, we don't do that here, apparently. That new monkey learns that trying to get those bananas equals pain. Now, the interesting thing about this is that if we were to just keep doing this exact same process of swapping out original monkeys and bringing in new monkeys, we would eventually arrive at a time in which none of the monkeys in that room have ever actually been rained on themselves. They've only been programmed to reinforce the existing system. These monkeys don't even know why the system exists. But if you were to ask them, they'd probably just tell you that's just the way that it is. That story was The Tale of 5 Monkeys, and it's a parable coined by a creativity expert by the name of Michael Michalko. The Tale of 5 Monkeys is meant to demonstrate the lack of curiosity that most people have towards existing systems. If you tell someone how things are, and most people don't even question that system, they just assimilate to it, which ultimately ends up reinforcing it. They reinforce an existing system without questioning its existence or validity at all. Kind of sounds like something that could be dangerous, am I right? Michalko writes, "We don't question that which we are most familiar. In corporations, people do the same thing over and over without questioning the policy or the system. How many times have you heard, because that's just the way things are done around here?" Make no mistake, this social phenomena is not just limited to corporations. This is something that we see in our society in so many different ways every single day. But the thing is, failing to question an existing system not only reinforces potentially harmful practices that are already existing within that system, but failing to question the system can actually lead to us reinforcing harmful practices onto each other, like citizen to citizen. When people stop questioning authority, for example, things can get really dark really quick. Let me tell you about the Milgram experiment. The Milgram experiment was a social experiment conducted by Stanley Milgram, a psychologist at Yale University back in 1963. This is the ad that Milgram had put in the paper looking for everyday ordinary American citizens to participate in his study. Participants were told that the experiment focused around the relationship between punishment, learning, and memory. But as you'll soon find out, there's much more to this experiment than meets the eye. Once a participant arrived at the facility, the experimenter introduced them to a second individual and told them, hey, actually, you two are going to be participating in this experiment together. One of you is going to be randomly assigned the role of teacher, and the other one is going to be randomly assigned the role of learner. The way it was set up, the teacher is in a room with the experimenter, and the learner is in the next room over, strapped to some sort of electric chair. That's right. So the teacher is supposed to call out a list of words over the intercom. They're supposed to say, blue bird, high tower, morning sunrise. And the learner in the next room is supposed to try to memorize. Once the list is done being read, the teacher is supposed to test the learner's memory. The teacher is supposed to go blue and the learner is supposed to go sky. The teacher is supposed to go high and the learner is supposed to go tower. You get the point. But let's say that the learner misremembers something. Let's say that they get the answer wrong. In that case, the teacher was instructed to administer a shock to the learner in the next room, an electric shock. Now, they're told that the first wrong answer would result in a minor shock, a mild shock, about 15 volts. But with each additional wrong answer, voltage would get stronger and stronger until it finally maxed out the machine at 450 volts. Now, to be fair, 15 volts isn't that bad. But once the teacher started administering shocks of 100 volts, 115 volts, 150 volts, the learner in the next room started expressing discomfort. Eventually, they started actually screaming at the top of their lungs. Now, like I said, the learner and the teacher, they're in rooms that are right next to each other. So the teacher can hear the learner's screams. So every now and then, he looks back at the experimenter who he's in the room with, and the experimenter just tells him, continue with the experiment, continue with the experiment. Once the voltage reached 330 volts, the learner stopped responding altogether, went completely dark, unresponsive, not playing the Marco Polo game anymore, not screaming, literally silent in the next room. Not a good sign, probably. But that didn't stop the experiment from continuing. In fact, the only way that the experiment would reach an end was if either the teacher literally refused the experimenter's orders and said, yo, I'm out. I'm not doing this experiment anymore. You don't have to pay me. I don't need to be a part of your research study. We're square. We're good. Or the voltage machine maxed out and reached the highest voltage possible, 450 volts. Once it was all over, that's when the teacher learned the truth about the experiment that they were participating in. The experimenter and the learner were just actors. The electric shocks weren't real. The actual experiment wasn't about learning and memory. No, it was about obedience and authority. Milgram wanted to see how many Americans would be willing to ignore their morals to follow orders just because an authority figure told them to. Would you believe me if I told you that 65% of Americans administered the maximum voltage? That's 120 volts after the learner went completely unresponsive. Results of the Milgram experiment make it painstakingly obviously clear that we are programmed, socially conditioned, if you will, to not question authority. I'm going to conclude the lecture today with a supposed quote from Socrates, a philosopher known for questioning everything and everyone, including the ruling class of his time. I know you won't believe me, but the highest form of human excellence is to question oneself and others. If you liked this video, go ahead and give it a like. If you subscribe to this way of thinking, might as well subscribe to the channel so that way the algorithm can show you more videos like this in the future. Until then, I'm Felecia for the win, and today we talked about why it is so important to question the system.